The last batch of 7 new Pokemon brings us to a total of 18 confirmed Pokemon for Sun and Moon in the 7th generation, and technically doubled the English amount because we didn't know about Rockruff and Komala. So we're dealing with a lot of Pokemon right now, and it's starting to really snowball. You know, the game's only a couple months off. We know of a decent amount of Pokemon, but how many more are we going to learn about, and how many are going to be in the region in general? Now, we actually know about more Pokemon than we think we do. We have probably 36, maybe 1 or 2 less or 1 or 2 more confirmed Pokemon for the Alola region already, and this just goes off of the Pokedex. That, yeah, even though we don't know about the evolutions of the starters, all of those are 2 more confirmed slots each. So, sure, we know Popplio, but it's going to have 2 evolutions, so that's 3 Pokemon right there. Same with the rest of the starters. Also, with a lot of the gameplay footage, either from E3 or various other sources, we've got to see that Pick-a-Peck is going to evolve 2 more times. So that's 3 right there in an evolutionary chain, and Yungoos will evolve once. So the numbers start adding up. Now, we don't know anything about Komala and Rockruff, but Rockruff is going to potentially evolve 2 more times, at least once. And I'm guessing that Komala is just going to evolve once, kind of do like a Pancham, Pangoro kind of deal. But even then, the new Pokemon we've seen in the trailer, we don't really know too much about them. Cutiefly seems like it's going to evolve once, if not 2 more times, and then maybe Drampa is just a single stage evolutionary Pokemon, or it could also be a pseudo-legendary that has 2 more pre-evolutionary forms. Now, I didn't really add Drampa to the list of like unknown new Pokemon, I'm just kind of going off of what we can really make easy assumptions about, or things that are already confirmed. And then we get to the legendaries. I mean, we know that Tapu Koko is an island guardian, so that's 1, but there's a guardian for every island, so potentially 3 more, giving us 4 of these like off legendaries, and that's something that we didn't see in the Kalos region, which is interesting. And then when we think about it, Solgaleo, Lunala, we don't know anything about the 3rd. We don't know about the Zygarde, the Rayquaza, the Kyurem, the whatever for this region that kind of oversees them, or is like the 3rd part to that trio. So that could be a Pokemon right there, and that's why our total is already very high for the amount of confirmed Pokemon. Now, to think about how many more Pokemon we're going to see in this region, or how many will be confirmed before the game comes out, we just have to look at previous generations to get an idea that by looking at Kalos and the 71 Pokemon that it introduced, it's not going to confirm that we're only going to see 40 more Pokemon for this new region. Now, Kalos is interesting because it didn't introduce any of those trio legendaries or anything, so that's already potentially 4 more Pokemon that we're going to have on the Kalos region, and the Kalos region did introduce 30 new Mega Pokemon, and some people are speculating that that was like what the 4th generation did, that instead of introducing evolutions to Pokemon, counting that towards the Pokedex includes the Megas in their own way, because that's designs, that's still a lot of character work, and that's a lot of new Pokemon. Like, imagine if you got 120 new Pokemon and then 30 new Megas, that's a pretty filled out dex, but as we all know, 151 the 1st generation, so no matter how you slice it, Kalos introduced the least amount of new Pokemon ever, and it's hard to see if the Alola region is going to take that direction or not. That the Alola region has a lot of Pokemon, that we've already seen a ton of non-native Pokemon to the Alola region, or non-Alola exclusive Pokemon. You know, there's Pikachu running around in the wild. We see Meowth, we see Spearow, we see just a ton of different Pokemon that are from other regions, so we don't know if that's going to be used as filler, or if we're still going to get over 100 new Pokemon for that region. So Kalos kind of shows the low end, and then if anything, the Unova region, the 5th generation, shows the high end. That 156 new Pokemon were introduced, no Megas, no new evolutions for any of the pre-existing Pokemon, and you can kind of just go through that Pokedex and see that there is a massive amount of Pokemon to learn and understand and use competitively, or just figure everything out about. So it kind of gives us the 2 things, that the 5th generation was the most, and then right into the 6th generation went into the least. Now, does Game Freak have any plans of making up for the low amount of Kalos Pokemon? That's one of the biggest complaints about the 6th generation, is that not enough new Pokemon were introduced, that there wasn't as much to explore, that, you know, you kind of went through the game and then there wasn't as much post-game, there wasn't as much to understand from the region. So it could be safe to say that the Alola region, or at least the 7th generation, is going to be somewhere in the middle, and that's why we can turn to the Sinnoh region. The Sinnoh region introduced 107 new Pokemon, but 24 of those had something to do with previous generations. So Sinnoh, as an entirely unique experience, was just above the Kalos region, which is something interesting to think about. But also we have like the pre-evolutions like Bonsly and Munchlax and other Pokemon like that. And then we also had the further evolutions like Lickilicky, Magnezone, Frostlass, things that expanded on the future generation. Now, I would like to see this come out of the Alola region, but at the same time, we could still reasonably get 100 new Alola exclusive Pokemon, and then another 20 or 30 evolutions or megas or augments to previous generations, and we still won't even be close to what Unova put out. And also, Hoenn in general just went 135 new Pokemon introduced. So, I mean, that's like a very average number that, again, if we introduce 100 new Pokemon exclusively, and then we have 30 existing evolutions get changed up a bit, then we'll be on par with Hoenn. And that felt like a very balanced region. But now we can just look at all the Pokemon that we've already been introduced to from the Alola region, and it seems like we're taking a very just straightforward approach to this. You know, some Pokemon already have evolutionary lines clearly defined. Like, we already know everything about the Grubbin evolutionary line, and we can see that some of these Pokemon, they might evolve once, they might not evolve at all. I think it's pretty safe to assume that of the Pikachu clone, that Togedemaru, it's probably going to be like Emolga, Dedenne. It's just not going to evolve, and it's going to be a standalone Pokemon. I would really say that of Bruxish as well, since that's how Alomomola works, and even Luvdisc. So we can see the evolutionary lines play through like there, and even then, since we have roughly 36 confirmed Pokemon, if we cut that number in half, say we average it to where, you know, it's going to be 2-stage evolutionary Pokemons on average, we're still looking at a potential 30 new species of Pokemon and their entire evolutionary chain. Because, say, 10 of those evolve into 3 stages, well, that's 30 right there, that pulls our total up to like 66, and then of those other 20, you know, maybe 8 more basic Pokemon that don't have any evolutions, and then 12 of those are going to be able to get double evolution chains or something like that. So it looks like we can stay around that, you know, 80, 100 number, and we haven't even seen half of the Pokemon that are going to be introduced. That we can effectively have 4 more reveals of what we just got, and then we still won't even see all of the Pokemon in the Alola region. So I think it's kind of bad to jump to conclusions about the overall designs of the Alola region that we haven't seen even a majority of. We've seen a very small amount of what the future of this region could hold, so it's still going to be pretty nice. Also, we can like look back to how X and Y went, because X and Y, since it didn't introduce as many Pokemon, it didn't leak a lot of Pokemon as well, then you obviously like, alright, we randomly appeared with like Pangoro and then Slurpuff, and then evolutionary line just started popping up, that Honedge was revealed, and then Trevenant was teased in a video about Hordes. So as gameplay mechanics come up, as this comes up, we're still going to be able to see many more new Pokemon that might define the region, better or worse, depending on how your opinion works out. And we can even see that near the end of the leaks and the reveals for X and Y, that still close to 40 Pokemon were revealed before the game even came out. So right now we're only at 18, and we can keep assuming from there. So I mean, we could double our reveals over the next 2 months. We'll still be on par with X and Y, but if we get any more, then it could hint at this region having many more Pokemon. That if this is a 50% larger region, you know, we could realistically get 5 more Pokemon for the month of July, and then August, September have, you know, 5, 6 Pokemon each, or maybe keep it a lot less. You know, all of a sudden we get a big drop in August, September for 10, and then we don't hear anything else about the game. We've still yet to figure out how Mega Evolutions or future evolutions will work. All we have to do is see that one Pokemon, you know, it's like, oh, by the way, this evolves from Dunsparce, this evolves from an existing Pokemon, you know, Farfetch. Maybe it doesn't get a Mega, maybe it just gets an evolution. So that's going to be a really interesting thing to keep an eye out, that all of a sudden, you know, new Pokemon evolving from previous generations, that could work out, or also just getting a better definition of how, you know, the region's going to work. Because honestly, for me, this last batch, I'm neutral about it. There's some things I really like about it. There's other things I'm not too fond of, but I mean, like, look at Togedemaru. I love this Pokemon. Rockruff is an amazing design. I enjoy all of the starter Pokemon, so there's still a lot of really good directions this generation can take and not feel bad design-wise, and we can also still have a ton of Pokemon just crammed into this region. Now, we've already seen other Pokemon confirmed, like Stoutland. Stoutland already has 2 pre-evolutions, so that's going to be a nice chunk of familiar Pokemon that we're going to experience throughout the region. So there we go, guys. I'm not going to like try, I know this is like trying to figure out how many new Pokemon there could be. I'm going to guess around 110. That, you know, looking at previous generations, that somewhere around 100 is going to be good. I don't think it's going to be overboard like Unova, and I think it's going to be a lot better than Kalos. So from what we've seen, going to get better, guys. We still have a lot of reveals, and the game's coming out in over 4 months at the time of making this video. So it's early July. We still have August, September, October. I don't think we're going to get much new Pokemon news in November. We might get a recap of all the new Pokemon that we've seen, but nothing big, because the game's going to be coming out then. No reason to spoil or reveal anything, since the hype will be at the max. So really only 3 more months of reveals. I mean, even if we get 5, 10 Pokemon for each of those reveals, we're still not even going to know half the region. So I'm really optimistic about that. I can't wait to see what we have. More designs. I'm ready for a news flood. I'm ready for a hype flood. Games coming out soon. Just tell yourself that's going to be soon and we're going to be okay. So if you guys enjoyed the video, if you guys enjoyed the speculation, at least I think one of the biggest points about this video that I really want to make it is kind of showing like, hey, we actually know like potentially a third of the region, but we don't know where those evolutionary chains are going to go or anything about that. So if you guys enjoyed the video, hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.